screen here. Welcome. I see some people are joining already. Got about 14 people on. I'm going to wait just a couple minutes here to get started. Give me a second. How are we doing? Okay, just another couple minutes here. For some reason it's not letting me split my screen. There we go. Okay, got about 26 people on here right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I just wanna start off thanking those of you who are already on for joining us today. Hope you're able to grab a cup of coffee or tea or hot chocolate just to keep you warm here on this cold, snowy, wintry day. So I did thank you to those of you who submitted questions for the conversation today, but I wanted to start actually with a couple topics that were not submitted, just a few important things that are going on. If you have questions, I see people, hello everyone. If you've got questions, make sure you just put them in the chat. We do have some of our administrators on today who will help answer questions. And then also at the end, if there's anything that I see on there or need to answer for everyone, that I will do that. I'm going to do my best to keep this to about 45 minutes. And may not even be that long today. Again, I don't think there's as much, there aren't as many topics, hot kinds of things to talk about today like there were when we had our coffee and conversation the last time. So I just want to start real quick and talk to you about, if you haven't heard, um, our Governor DeWine on February 9th held a press conference, and at that press conference, he made an announcement that schools need to prepare and submit a plan on how we're going to help our students advance and make up for learning that was either lost or delayed as a result of this pandemic. And then he indicated the plan must be prepared, presented to our school community and to the General Assembly by April 1st. So our team, our district team, at our district level, at our building level, and then including our teachers and subcommittees, they're going to be starting that work. We've been talking about it all year, but we're going to drill down, get to the work of what we need to include in this plan. So we do know that this plan is going to look different at every level in the district. So just to give you an example, in the elementary, especially in our grades K-3, we believe that there's going to be a strong focus on literacy. Then at the high school, for example, the focus there is going to be on credit recovery. Students who have not earned a credit for a course, especially for our seniors who may not have enough credits in order to graduate. So we know that there's a real concern there at that level. So our plan from the state has to include, and it's just a good part of the plan. The plan is going to include how we're going to identify the students who have been mostly impacted by this pandemic and focusing on our most vulnerable students. We're going to identify, it'll include how we need to identify the learning needs of those students that we've identified. It has to include what resources that we're going to use and what approaches that we're going to take to best address. So that's it. You know, is it going to be tutoring? Will it be a form of summer school? Will it be a form of summer camp? That's what we have to work on, is what that approach will be. And then we're also going to look at partnerships that we have in our local community and regionally, examples of maybe our rec centers, our libraries, our educational service center in Cuyahoga County. We'll look at all of those. So I did share a little bit of that with the board the other night at our board meeting. And as we progress and get closer to April 1st, I will continue to update the board on that. So if you watch the board meetings, and then also we'll make sure that while we're doing this, that you'll get that in a district communication that will go out to everyone in the district. Something else that we have going on right now. So in July of 2020, our Board of Education passed the resolution of commitment to equity and excellence in education. Part of that commitment, the BCSD invited students, parents, staff, and community members to participate in a diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice task force. The purpose of that task force will be to identify strengths, areas of growth, and plan of action as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and anti-racism in our school district. We are part of the resolution. The things that we're going to focus on will be to assist the district with this work. Well, let me back up. To help us with this work and the focus, we've partnered with the Diversity Center of Northeast Ohio, and they're going to assist the district working with us, and their focus is on increasing knowledge, raising awareness, and building skills to help communities that are safe, respectful, and inclusive of all members. And we have a person who's dedicated to us from the Diversity Center. Her name is Marissa Wisman, and she's already begun working with us, working with our administrators, talking with our staff, putting information out to our staff that they can use in their day-to-day interactions with their kids. The application that we put out for the task force, we had an overwhelming response of people who want to be a part of that task force. And we got about 170, 175 responses, of which everyone is able to participate. And of those responses, we did get about 60 students that are interested. It's pretty much our middle 8th grade through high school students that have been invited to participate. So we're really excited. Student voice is so important. They're the ones who are in the buildings every day, know what's going on. And so we're really excited that we have so many students that are willing to be a part of this task force. So Marissa Wisman will be presenting to our Board of Education at our next work session on March 1st, what she's doing with the district. So if you're interested in learning more about that, if you're not part of the task force, make sure that you tune into that, or you can watch the recording of that afterwards. And our first task force meeting is actually tonight. So we're excited to work with Marissa and to get started on this process. So before I get to some of the questions, well, actually I will. I'll go ahead and start with some of the questions. I'm going to start with some of the things that were submitted prior. Someone submitted a question that they just found out from their middle school child that we aren't cleaning in between classes or in between lunches. And so to some degree that is true. So at the beginning of February, we began using a new cleaning product. It's called BioProtect RTU. And that does not require our custodial staff or our teachers to wipe down tables, desks, to use our spray disinfectant in between classes or in between lunches every day. So our custodial staff and our teachers still do regular kinds of cleaning with lunch tables, wiping them down and things like that when needed. But what your students saw probably coming in at the very beginning of the return to school is that there was constantly wiping down in between class changes and that wiping down in between the changes of lunches. And with this new cleaning product, the product itself actually the disinfectant is good for 90 days. However, as a district in our classrooms, we will be using that every 30 days. And then in our cafeterias, on our cafeteria tables, we'll use it every 2 weeks. And we felt that that was important. Again, the product, you can not reapply it for 90 days, but we felt in the cafeterias that's important just because that is the one space in the buildings where students do take their masks off. So we will clean that. So kids probably aren't seeing that as much, and that is okay just because we had a change in our cleaning product. So that was a really good question. Another question was asked when summer school information for the high school is going to be available. And again, that's part of our plan. That's part of our extended learning plan. And we hope, again, we'll have that plan done by April 1. So soon after April 1st, then we'll be able to start to put that information out. If you have any questions about that, go ahead and reach out. If you have some concerns, reach out to your high school, your guidance counselor for your child at the high school in the meantime. So once that information is ready, we'll push it out through district communication, and we'll also make sure that that's posted on our website at the high school and at the district level too. Question was, with all the extra days off, getting rooms ready for the return to in-person and the vaccines, will we still finish our year on time, or will we have to go more days? So the answer is yes, we will finish our year on time. We do not have any plans to extend our school year, and the last day of school will be as scheduled on June 10th. So there's not going to be an extension to the school year this year. Someone asked about commencement. Are we having one? So the answer right now is yes. Our plan as it stands right now is that we will have a commencement ceremony for the class of 2021. So we are currently working, Dr. Smithberger and I are currently working on securing an outdoor venue. We can't give details of that, so we're working on dates. And we're working on a couple places where they're going to probably provide us that opportunity to have an outdoor ceremony. We will need to wait on further guidance from the Cuyahoga County Board of Health as far as how that will look. The questions are, will it be all students at one time? Will it be, we have to split students up? How many guests will a student be able to have? And that's going to be due to capacity. And we don't know the answers to that yet. On my call, my last call with the Board of Health, which was on February 5th, they indicated to us, I think they feel comfortable that they know that people are going to hold commencement ceremonies this year. But they've asked us to hold off, don't make any plans, create any of the details of it, that they will provide us with that information in the next 2 months. So the Board of Health's been great working with us and trying to make sure that we're able to do some of these things this year. And that would go the same for prom, because I think people ask about commencement, people ask about prom. It's the same thing. I know the high school is looking again at securing a place. The details of that yet, we don't know. So we're trying to get back to some kind of a normal, especially for our seniors, because we know what that was like for our kids last year. So sit tight, wait for that information to come, and our goal is to try to be able to do some of those things this year. So keep your fingers crossed. So someone asked a question about TVLA and why families have to go to the building and pick up papers from their TVLA teachers, asking why can't those be emailed? Aren't we trying to reduce the number of people in the building each week? So that is true. So we still are not permitting visitors during the school day when our students and our staff are in school. We do have some things. That in the evening, but during the day we're not. So I called one of the elementaries today. I'm like, tell me what this looks like. So there are things that our TVLA kids do need to get. We talked about, I know that there was a pickup of kindergarten readers. I know that there are packets and papers of things that if the kids were in school, that these are items that they need. A lot of times they're not just as simple as being able to email them to you. And one of the reasons why we don't email that is because we don't want to make the assumption that everyone has the ability to print those materials off at home. And again, in a lot of cases, there are a lot of things. So I know I talked to Mrs. Schneid today, and she said one of the last things that they do, there was a packet for kindergarten. It was about 85 pages. Again, same kinds of materials that they're using in the classroom that have to go home to the kids. So we don't email those because we just don't want to assume. So if I know a family, and a lot of times, the majority of the times, those things are put out in the vestibule, or they are put in a place where the parent can come in and just pick it up and that they can go. So yeah, we still do want to limit the visitors to the building, but we know that this is essential to our kids. Our pre-K 5 kids are at home. Some of them do need some of those paper materials, and we know it's essential for them to get them. So we do have to make that exception that families are going to come in the building and pick up those materials. If you have a concern with it yourself about, being out and getting in the building, just please email Mr. Blatnica. And maybe you are someone who is able, that they are materials that could be emailed to you and that you could print them. Sometimes I think that might be the case. Sometimes I think that may not be the case. But if you have some concerns about that, just please reach out to Mr. Blatnica and he can help you with that. Question was, with our expansion of summer opportunities, with the extended learning opportunities that we have to plan for, if they're expanded, would that include preschool? And if it includes preschool, would it include preschoolers with IEPs? So again, we're still in that planning phase. We're not sure yet whether or not that will include preschool, but if it does include preschool, it will be all students and even those students who are on IEPs. I'm going to save one of these for last. Okay, this was well, I've got a couple questions here about substitutes, so I'm going to save those ones for last. Someone just before we came on today submitted something about Camp Mybrobe and asked if there are plans in place for Camp Mybrobe for next year if COVID allows. So Mr. Draves is heading up that committee right now. He's got staff from the middle school, someone from the high school, all on that committee, and they are working together to look at those options for next year. So, and we do know, obviously, the COVID restrictions may play a part of that next year or not. We're not sure, but we are looking at it. If we're able to do it, that would be our goal, is to have our kids have that camp experience. What it might look like, we're not certain, 100% sure yet about. But again, Mr. Draves is working on that committee, and we hope that that information will be shared here before the end of the school year. So I saw, Samantha, you put on there, you must have just, I don't know if you missed it or not, if you heard it, or just give me a thumbs up about any update on prom or graduation. Right now, just again, the plan is that we hope to have some form of commencement and some form of prom this year. We just don't have any details with that yet because we're waiting on the additional guidance from the County Board of Health and what that may look like in order to do that. So let me see what else is on here. Okay, all right, we're good so far. All right, so the last two things that I have on what people had submitted talk about substitute teachers. So I'm going to address the first one. The first question was, when substitute teachers are filling in for classes, they never log in to teach the TBLA kids or notify them that there is no class. Can this be improved? So there are a lot of different substitute situations this year, obviously, with everything that has gone on. So we have times where so again, 6 through 12, because we have our staff, good Samantha, that our staff is live streaming. If it's just a normal absence, teacher's out sick today, that means the teacher's not instructing. We have a sub in the classroom, and I had Vicki Turner, our director of tech, go in today and check a couple of these. Our teachers are leaving sub plans, just like they would do normally if they were out during the day, and then the sub just follows those plans. In those situations, so a couple that I had her look at the high school today, I mean, the teachers are posting on there. They should be posting a message just to say, I'm out today, here are the things that you need to do. Similar to what they would do if they were in class and they were planning for a substitute on that day. So, so what that means is there's no live instruction going on, so there's nothing to stream. We don't, again, it's a whole issue with, it's not an issue because the instruction isn't the same. What we've asked them to do is to plan for an asynchronous learning day for when they're not in. So our students in class are not getting that same kind of form of live synchronous instruction either. It's just a sub plan. Here's what the students are supposed to do while the teacher is out that day. If we do have situations where staff is out maybe for an extended period of time. If staff is out for an extended period of time, not just a couple days because they're sick, we do have our substitutes who do have access to Blackboard, and then they're able to go in and they are in those cases streaming from the classroom, so that the students at home are getting that live stream. But in a lot of situations, there's going to be days where the teacher is just out and students will have asynchronous learning. So if your child's not seeing that that message is on there, or they're not getting that asynchronous learning, which from today, from us spot checking today, that is exactly what is happening, that they're getting that message and they're getting some asynchronous work to do. You just need to reach out to your guidance counselor and have your guidance counselor take a look at that. But we see that that's what's being done right now. So Jennifer asked a question, most teachers are vaccinated in February, March. Will all the kids have to be in school, such as TVLA students or hybrid classes on March 14th? No, that's a really good question, because I know you're hearing on the news that Governor DeWine is threatening to take the vaccines from some schools if their kids are not back in. So in our format, and I'll talk about that in a second. Right now, the way I see it, I don't see us going back to a hybrid format. So by us being all in for the students who want to be in, and then having the TVLA and the virtual option for the kids who want to be at home, we are good with that. We are considered return to school. It's just because of TVLA, we had to have that option. So those students would not, and right now we can't have those students back because we've planned to come back based on the fact that we knew that we would have a percentage of our kids not in school, so that we're still able to safely distance at least 3 feet. All right, the next question about subs. So I hope that, Jennifer, I answered that. And Sam, same thing, with DeWine's speech about all kids being back March 1st. No, that's all kids who want to be back March 1st and still having that virtual option. We have not heard anything that is different from that to this point. So if that were the case, which again, that whole announcement, all that information is kind of, we get it as you get it. So we'll see. Stay tuned for that one. So I had a parent or someone reached out to talk about if we have any plans to increase substitute teacher wages. So subs find it competitive to teach. This parent's child had multiple substitute teachers in a class for the first semester, and that none of them stayed for very long. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. So I will say this. It's been a challenge for everyone this year, not just Berea City School District, but all school districts, to find substitutes, to find qualified substitutes, to find substitutes who will come in and even stay and work, in long conditions. And remember, with all of our changes, even in the learning models, some might have felt comfortable coming in a hybrid model. And then when we switched all back, they might not have been as comfortable with that. We had subs that were here when we were all remote, were comfortable with that, but then we came back to hybrid, they weren't comfortable with that. We have subs that leave because another district may, even the length of when a teacher is out. Like, we do know some staff that will come to us and say, I'm gone for the rest of the year. And then we're able to find somebody is able to stay in there for the rest of the year. And it's a commitment piece too. So we're able to commit to them to say, hey, we have a position for you, and we have a position you for the rest of the year. We have some staff who may say, I'm taking, I need to take this much time off, but I don't know how much longer I'll be gone after that. And so we may have subs who'll go, okay, I'll stay for this amount of time, hoping maybe to be able to stay longer, and then just the uncertainty of it. And again, that's our, that's the right of our staff to request a leave, and those leaves just differ. We actually, just not too long ago, the Cuyahoga County did put out a survey to say, here, list your sub pay and everything of where you sit. And we reviewed that information, and we are actually fairly competitive with other districts. So as of right now, and again, I think a lot of that has I don't always think that people are leaving because of sub pay. I think that there are a lot of other different factors and reasons why people do leave. So um, I think we're going to see things start to level out here, and I'll share that here in a second in my closing remarks about what we actually are seeing since we have been back 5 days a week. Deanna asks, how many more in-service days are planned for the remainder of the school year? Right now, none. So whatever's on the calendar. So we have the only other unanticipated day that wasn't on our calendar is March 5th, and that's for our staff who wants to be vaccinated to get that second vaccine. So other than that, hopefully no surprises. But I don't know. I don't think our year has been anything but surprises. And then Amber says if vaccinations are not available for children for this fall, has a continuation of TVLA, been considered for the following school year? So there's much conversation about that right now. And um, I'm not going to say I was on a call the other day and there is some question about what that looks like, and it's due to current restrictions in the legislation. Again, I think this year it was a necessity, and there were some things that were changed to allow us to do that. I know we're all in the same boat of we want to still be able to have a virtual option for kids who want to have it, whether it's COVID related or not. Some kids are thriving in that virtual setting, but we know that there are a lot of kids that are not thriving in that virtual setting. So, Amber, stay tuned for that. Again, I think that's going to be information that comes along as we get closer to next year. Do you see anything else in there right now? Okay. So will you be doing an in-person open house at the schools for incoming ninth and fourth graders? So again, right now, I would say yes. Any of those transition, right? So transition for kindergarten, transition for fourth to fifth grade, transition for eighth grade to ninth grade. So our goal would be able to do those transitions, those open houses next year. Again, I will say we're going to do them. It'll just be what that looks like. And I say this all right now, um, hoping that this virus is under control. So that could change if something happens and this gets out of control, which we're not seeing right now. That could change. So I say all of that. I say all of that now. But that's with the hope that we're moving in the right direction and that we would be able to do all of that. So I want to be able to say yes, but I also don't want you to have to hold me to that in case something changes with the virus that we have no control over. Sixth graders who missed camp too, again, that's part of Mr. Draves and the work that he's doing with his committee. And as soon as we have more information on that, we'll make sure that that gets pushed out to everyone. So that is a discussion that we're having right now. Somebody asked, can TVLA students come back to school for the fourth quarter, stay home? So the hard answer for that is we did ask TVLA to make a commitment for the remainder of the year. So as right now, as we stand right now, if your child is in TVLA, your child will have to remain in TVLA through the end of the year. So that's all I want to say on that right now. Again, I don't see things changing enough for us to be able to bring all students back. And just, I know that for some families is the hard no, is difficult, but our decision to bring our kids back was based on the fact that we knew we would have 25 to 30% of our kids not here, and that we couldn't follow the 6 feet of social distancing, but that we were able to do 3 feet. So, Stephanie, are there any discussions on plans to be able to go back to or hold school PTA? I'm reading it as I read it. It moves up. PTA events safely in the district. Yeah, I don't think so right now. Again, as that all comes, a lot of that guidance and conversation comes from the Board of Health, and most districts right now are still holding to no visitors, none of those events. Again, is that something that you guys have done a really great job of being creative this year. I will tell you that. I know some of the things that different buildings are doing. So I appreciate the creativity and still being able to do great things for our kids. I know like the Valentine treat bags were a huge hit, a huge hit. I appreciate your creativity. So stay tuned on that. And if guidelines change, we'll go back in and we'll look at our protocols and our procedures and we'll look to change that if we can. Um, 6 through 12 on Fridays. Not right now, and I can explain that just a little bit more. Our the whole reason for that, our 6 through 12 not coming back on Friday and having synchronous remote learning, is really because I'll give you this number. Right now, we have 619 high schoolers, grades 9 through 12, 619 students who are virtual. So our teachers are doing, they're able to address the needs of their kids who are in person. And then we've got 619 kids that are not in person that those teachers in grades 6 through 12 needed some time to be able to reach out and to make connections with those kids that are virtual. K through 5, because we pulled those kids out totally. Those kids are not even in classrooms. That's why we were 5 days there. So we're hoping. So that was a must for our teachers to give them the time to be able to reach out, to connect, or to intervene with our TVLA kids that they don't see. And so that's, I mean, 619 kids is a lot of kids at the high school to be able to do that. So as of right now, I don't look that we're going to bring 6 through 12 back on Fridays right now at this time. Pre-K 5, obviously already back. Somebody said, do you foresee the new CDC guidance on schools changing anything locally? I don't know. I have a meeting tomorrow with the Board of Health. So um, we'll talk with the Board of Health and see what they have to say, and they help us in making those decisions. So stay tuned for that. I have a kindergartner coming to school in fall. Will he be able to be there full time? That's our plan. Again, if nothing changes, if with the virus and we're able to move forward just like we are now, our kindergartners would be here full time. Oh, Jennifer, you're spot on. Our teachers are doing an amazing job. I give them all the credit in the world. They actually have been amazing. It's hard on everyone, right? I mean, it's hard on that. I mean, it's almost a year. It's been almost a year, and I have a little thing that I'm going to send out to the staff when it's close to that. And I think if we reflect back where we were a year ago, and when we sent kids home for the first day, we never ever thought that we would still be dealing with this today the way that we are. So they have they've answered the call and they've done an incredible job. So hats off to them. Hats off to our administrators and all the work that they've done to get our buildings open and all of our support staff. So they've done just an amazing job this year. So thanks for saying that. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat right now. So if you don't have any, I just want to finish. I want to give you my sincere thanks. Um, since we've returned to person in January, things have really gone smoothly. And I'll give you an example. When I told you I'd talk about subs, I will tell you right now at this moment, when we talked back in November, when we made the decision we had to shut back down and go remote, on any given day, we had probably about 45 to 50 staff who were out um, due to anything COVID related. So whether or not they were sick at home waiting for a test, and remember at that time it was taking forever to actually get a test, whether they were positive, and at that time the quarantine guidelines were 14 days, or if they were in quarantine from coming into contact with somebody who was positive. And at that time, the quarantine was 14 days. So I would say on average, any given day, we were at 45 to 50 staff members that are out. And that's classified, and that's our teachers and our support staff. Um, I'm just looking even right now at what we have, and I know I hate to say it because I always feel like I'm gonna jinx myself, but like on a day like today, we have 4 staff members that are out for something that's COVID related. And that's pretty good. And our numbers have continued to decline and steady and, become more steady. So, hopefully we won't see as many substitute teachers in our classrooms. Our subs have been phenomenal. We at the beginning of the year, Mr. Ruggiero brought on building subs, and those building subs have been amazing and they've been very helpful. So we're doing okay. And again, the only reason we're doing that, number one, our kids are phenomenal. When we sat down last summer and talked about bringing kids back before we knew we needed to start out remote, one of the biggest fears we had was kids will never wear their masks. And we walk through our buildings and our kids are doing a great job. Yep, they fall down sometimes, remind them, put them up. They have done an amazing job. So for us to be able to be back, we couldn't do it without our kids. We definitely couldn't do it without our staff, our teachers, our support staff, and then we really can't do it without families. So we appreciate everything that you've been doing. We have right now in our buildings over 75% of our kids back in. Our about 24% of our kids are still virtual. So we're doing it. We're doing it well. We thank the families for understanding our need to take those 2 days in March for in-service days for our staff who wanted to be vaccinated, to be able to be vaccinated. And I know someone asked in the chat what percentage of our staff, and we're about 70, we're a little over 70% of our staff who have opted to receive the vaccination. And that's why I don't think, if we're trending in the right direction, I hope we continue to trend in the right direction. And if we do that, I hope that we're able to stay in. I hope we're able to start the school year with our kids back who want to be able to be back. So I just think it was important for those 2 days for our staff who wanted to get vaccines to be able to do that. And it just helps us get one step closer to somewhat being back to normal, although I don't know how long it'll be before we're fully back to normal. So I think Nina asked, last thing I hear is, could you please consider a building orientation for the summer for middle school TVL students who don't know where classes will be in the fall? Yeah, I don't know if we'll do in the summer. It'll probably be in the fall as we come back to school. We'll do almost be like a new student orientation for those students who haven't even been in the building. But we'll make sure that our kids are oriented to their buildings if they haven't been because they chose to be virtual this year. And then the other thing is for our high school, if you haven't heard, we will be doing an open house at the high school, but we won't be doing that till June. We want to make sure the parking lot's done, everything out front is done, and we'll be able to do that. Christy, will all middle school and high schools be able to have lockers this year? I already know at the middle school that they are doing some locker usage. The high school they have an opportunity to get a locker. There are only 200 and some lockers at the high school. So if you have a high schooler that needs a locker, they're not assigned. They're kind of a day-to-day use. So if you have a high schooler that needs to see a locker, have them see their assistant principal or see their guidance counselor, and they will help them with that. So, but I think that's gone really well. Okay, I don't see anything else in the chat, so I'm assuming everyone's pretty good. I just remind you that at any time, Donna asked, would the district lose money if TVL students go on the state homeschooling program? We lose, yeah, we don't get funding for those students if students are homeschooled. They're technically withdrawn from our ADM, so we do not receive money for them. Chris, that's a great question. Chris asked a question. With the infrastructure in place now for remote TVLA learning, is there a reason to have snow days anymore? So yes and no. Um, so for example, the other day, so we didn't the very first snowfall of the season, we didn't do a snow day. We did a remote learning day. And that was because at that time, all of our students were remote and we had just started remote learning. So we just kept that going and our students, they all had their devices. All of our staff at that time was teaching it as remote teachers. So that was appropriate then. The other day, it's just a lot of this is going to have to do with timing. Some of our kids in the elementaries they don't always have their devices at home. 6 through 12 pretty much should be taking their devices back and forth. And then it's also with our staff. Like if it's an unexpected kind of day, it's probably going to be a true calamity day. But if let's say I know right now next week is going to be minus 25 and we know they're going to be cold days, those would probably be days that would be remote learning because we would know it ahead, we could plan ahead, and we can be ready for it. So we'll put out, I shared some guidance with our admins and I think our teachers have seen some of that. So we'll push that out to families too to give families kind of an idea of what that looks like. So yeah, Dana, I hear that the kids like the snow day, and it does bring a sense. So I do think in the future, I mean, we are prepared. We're ready to be able to have a remote day, and so I do think that we will see that every once in a while that we actually will have a remote learning day. If we know we're going to be out 3 or 4 days, and we're prepared for it. I think we will see that. We're going to see that. We have the ability to be remote. Tiffany asked, will the fifth graders have to carry the desk guards for the rest of the year? If so, can you please explain why they have them and not the rest of the middle school? I will tell you with the desk guards, part of that was when we made that decision to come back and we had told families, we had told you that we were coming back and we were coming back with desk guards. I had to hold that promise true. And so that's why they have them. When we made the decision to bring 6 through 12 back, we got the new guidance from the state. And that new guidance, and it could have been, if we had that guidance before, we may not have had desk shields. So with the new guidance that came out, we put the information out, and it's really a lot of our staff has it to protect, like we left it up to the staff. Do you want those in your classrooms or do you not? And so I don't know if we'll keep them the rest of the year, but that was a promise I made to you when we said we were bringing pre-K through 5 back, is that they would only be 3 feet and that they would have desk shields. So that's why we've held on to those because that's promise that I made. But 6 through 12, we did not make that promise, and we knew that it would look different at 6 through 12 than it would in the elementary buildings. Okay. I think we're good. So if there's anything, hopefully I answered all your questions today. I appreciate all of you for taking your time to be here today. I'm going to keep it right about 45 minutes like I promised. And if there's anything that I didn't answer or you want some clarification on, please do not hesitate to pick up the phone, give me a call, or send me an email, and I'll do what I can do. If you've got specific questions about your child and your child's building, make sure you reach out to your guidance counselor or the school administrator in that building. We're always here to help. So I hope everyone has a good day. Hope we were able to answer some of your questions that you had. So everyone, take care.